Instant block is probably Strive's most underused mechanic, so I made a video to talk about one way to use it against every character. So first we should talk about what it actually is, right? Instant blocking is a way to either increase or reduce pushback on moves on block, and it is done by going from blocking to neutral for 5 frames to back to blocking within 2 frames of the attack connecting, which sounds like a lot, but I promise if you do it enough, you'll just get used to it, right? Like, I think generally the difficulty of IB is super overplayed, and once you get yourself to start trying it more often, you'll get used to it. So here's a quick example of it. So when Kai does his 2K into his 2D, I'm going to show the pushback on normal block when I instant block it, and if you IB while holding FD, which increases pushback, the pushback actually increases even further. So I'm going to show all 3. That's normal block. That's instant block. And then there's IBFD, which is, you know, pretty drastic, right? Now that I've shown that, let's get into a way to use IB against every character in this game. For sure, like, the most easily applied and honestly probably most important, like, by far, IB in the game is going to be IBFDing on your wake up. And the reason I would say it's easy is because, at least what I think most top players aim to do, is they try to basically go for the IB a little bit too early on purpose, and then if they get it, then nothing happens. If they like get the timing they aim for. If they do it too early, then nothing happens, and if they slightly get it late, then they get the IB, right? That's how I see Gobo try to do it, and he's definitely the first person who like popularized IBing, or this IBFD on Wakeup stuff. I'm sure it's like, you know, common in other games, but specifically in Strive, he's definitely the person who started out using it the most. And I'm going to show an example with Nago, just because there's the character-specific example, but in general, like, IBFD is so useful against this character. So in this example, he's going to throw me, and then do Fukyo 2K into his bite, right? So you would think that if you FD'd this 2K, you know, I'd be safe out of throw range and stuff, right? But actually, no. If you FD this 2K, you still get bit. And you can't even, like, try to stand FD it for even more pushback because this is a low. So your only way out of, like, this guessing game is IBFD, right? So suddenly it whiffs, right? Obviously, this is one example of many cases of wake up IBFD being, like, potentially avoiding, like, a game-losing situation. So I can't stress enough, like, if you just implement this into your gameplay and get, like, even, like, once every 2 games this wake up IBFD, it can really just, like, change the flow of your matches.
So Badguy.
So for the character specific stuff, Soul has a lot of ways to use mainly IBFD against him. And it's basically, you just want to IBFD as many hits in his block strings as you can just to get him away from you, because his range is generally pretty short. But there's a lot of those to go into, and I kind of wanted to talk about one that might be a little bit more underutilized. So his projectile Gunflame is really good, I would say, because it launches you so it can potentially give you a combo on hit, and if not, it at least gives you a knockdown. But it's pretty bad on block up close. It's -10, right? So when he uses it to end his block strings, normally you're, like, decently far, so a lot of characters can't get a good punish. But if you dash block and then IB his Gunflame, you're able to get a really good one, actually. So I'll show you how that works. Right, that's just an example, but because he's -10 and it's a projectile, which is in counter hit recovery, basically every character in the game can get something pretty meaningful here. Your mileage may vary, but most characters will actually get even more than that.
Kai Kiske.
So for Kai, we're going to talk about his main block string ender, which is going to be a pretty common pattern here. Direct Clut, which is -8, but if you're in shock state, it's -6, and also has way more pushback, so he's at a pretty good spot. So let's show what that looks like. Like, he's -6, but you're not making him feel it here, basically, is what I'm saying, right? So if you IB, that changes a lot. So let's show what that looks like. Right? So because he's -6, I'm getting a 2k2d punish. Depending on spacing, you might also get a throw, unless you're, the character with small throw range. And this can change Dire Clap from a pretty safe block string ender to something that can be potentially game ending to go for.
May.
When May has you like in the corner here, and you block her charge 6H, she's very often going to go into her H Dolphin, which is +7, and then into her 5k, which is 8 frames. So not much you can really do about that, right? But something that can make her actually think about what she's doing here is if you IBFD the H Dolphin, her 5k is actually going to whiff. And another thing that's pretty important is that you can react to the H Dolphin happening with IBFD, which is not going to be the case for most of the moves on this list. You're just, inputting it at a timing that is going to happen in the block string.
Chipp Zato.
So for Chipp, something really common that he's going to do is end his block strings in Rekkas like this. So IBing his second Rekka gives you an option to punish it because it's -6. But just be careful because he can frame trap you with the third Rekka. But if you block that, he's -9, so it's a pretty big risk.
Potemkin.
So it was pretty hard to find a good one for Pot, actually, because I would say the Wake Up IBFD is like, I don't know, it just puts in so much work against Pot, right? But I will say one that can be kind of useful is a lot of them will try to basically like force their way into neutral with Hammerfall when they have meter, like this. And he's right in your face here, so using IBFD to push him out after the Garuda impact is pretty useful. So, like this. He's still pretty close, honestly, but I guess every little bit counts, because if you FD his close slash right after this, then suddenly you're, out,
Faust.
So, for Faust, a pretty common string that he does in neutral is far slash into 2H, and it's got really far range. So even though 2H is pretty bad on block, it doesn't matter that much because you're so far away, right? Sometimes they'll even do it into item because they're that confident that you won't be able to challenge him in time. And in general, I'd say special cancels off of it are pretty poor because item is obviously very unsafe. Tornado is unsafe on block, and Scalpel you can just react in 6p. So if they're really scared, then maybe they'll just do nothing, right? But if you IB it, he's -12 and decently close to you, so you can punish. Zato actually gets a pretty miserable punish here, which is only 2S. He doesn't get a combo or anything, but most characters will be able to do better. Even characters like Chipp and Baiken can get pretty good hits from this because Faust is still crouching in recovery of 2H.
Millia Rage.
So Millia's close slash hits twice, which means that even if you don't get the Wake Up IBFD, you can react to the close slash happening and actually try to IB or IBFD the second hit. Both are actually pretty good, and I'll show you why. So on normal block, it looks like that, right? And she can go into her 2P, which is 4 frames, so you really can't do anything. But if you IB only the second hit of her close slash, you don't even need to do the first one, then it looks like this. She actually ends up in your throw range, so she has to jump cancel or do a gapless option, which is pretty terrifying. But if you don't want to take a risk like that, you can also choose to IBFD it, and that looks like this. And now look how far away she is, right? Her 2S and stuff is also going to whiff from this range. So yeah, I would say IBFDing the second hit of her close slash, if you learn how to do it, really goes a long way in helping you against her offense.
Zato 1.
So, the video wouldn't be fair if I didn't do one for my own character, Zato. I'd say generally, if he has the option to summon Eddie, he's just got, too much stuff he can do. So at least starting out, I wouldn't really look to IB that much. That's some crazy next level stuff in the matchup. But if he's stalling for Eddie, something that's actually really useful is he does this block string, 2K 2D invite hell, right? And you can't really do much about this, can't really mash on it. If you jump, you'll air block and stuff, right? But the thing is, invite hell is like the puddle, right? And it'll start from the middle and then expand, right? So you can IB Zato's 2D and end up a little bit closer to him, and you'll actually be able to dash through because the part of the puddle that would need to hit you hasn't actually spawned yet. So you can dash up and then get a punish on him. Like that, right? And then the punish can even be like 2H. Like he dies. Like, it's really bad. So generally if Zatos see that you IB their 2D, they won't, you know, they won't cancel into drill, and that means that you just get a punish because 2D is -9.
Ramlethal Valentine.
So it wouldn't be an IB video if I didn't do one on everybody's favorite character, Rim. So I'd say that this is actually probably the most like mandatory IB in the game, because if you don't do this against Ram, she's just unstoppable. This works mid-screen, but it's especially true in the corner. If you don't IB, her Rekka pressure and RPS is just like brutal, right? Because obviously it did just get nerfed, but a lot of the time the odds are super in her favor, even though she's minus. So a good way to stop that is instant blocking her Rekka. So if you IB any of her Rekkas, the next Rekka is going to be a 2-frame gap, which means you can throw between the Rekkas if you're close enough, right? So let's show that off. There's me doing it on Rekka 1. And there's me doing it on Rekka 2. And just doing this is gonna like completely change the matchup against Ram, I think, because if not, she's gonna just, you know, autopilot these Rekkas. She's gonna do like Rekka 1 into sword throw, Rekka 2 into sword throw, steal turns, all that garbage, right? So you really need to make her feel like there are consequences for doing these Rekkas, even if I'm not sure that there are that many consequences, but whatever.
Leo Whitefang. Okay.
Alright, so up next is Leo, and this one probably most people watching might be able to guess, which is his 2k into his 6k. Now, if you do this, then Leo is in your face and -4, which means he's definitely getting thrown, right? But there is one thing to look out for. If he does 2k and then does 2d or delay 6p, then the gap is actually going to be small enough where it'll hit your IB timing, because 2k into 6k is a 3-frame gap. 6k hits on frame 14 and 2k has 11 frames of block stun, which means that you're going to be IBing on frame 14, right? But 2D is frame 12, and he can delay 6p to also hit on frame 12, right? Which is exactly 2 frames before frame 14, which means it is impossible to IB 6k and not get hit by either his 2D or 6p. So I'm going to show all that now. There's me doing the IB and throw punish on his 6k. There's me trying to IB and getting hit by 2D. There's me trying to do it for 6p.
Nagori Yuki.
So up next is Nago. I'd say this is probably the second most mandatory IB in the game, and it's on his second hit of Far Slash, or first follow-up of Far Slash. So basically when he does this, he is -8 in your face and can threaten a strike throw with either delay bite or third hit of Far Slash or Beyblade or close slash or all this garbage, right? But if you IBFD it, you're out of range for the Far Slash to turn into a close slash again, as you see there, because if I normal block it, he's going to do this, right? So just doing that already eliminates like so many layers of this stupid RPS. So what I do a lot of the time is IBFD this and then jump the Far Slash and then punish him, right? But obviously there's still a lot more layers. That's just something good to start out with.
Giovanna.
So next up we have Gio, and this is going to be about her 214k. And there's two different situations that will happen if you IB this, so I'm going to show off both. What normally happens is that she does her 214k on block, and she's -4, and she has this pretty annoying RPS where she either steals her turn again or something like that, or she backdashes, right? And if you try to cover her backdash, then you're going to get hit by that 2k, and then she's going to, you know, start all this all over again or strike throw you. So a good way to deal with that is by instant blocking this move. And then you're gonna stuff whatever she's gonna want to do. But even better is if she's closer up, like if she does dash 5k, let's say. What's gonna happen is when you IB it, you're gonna be in your throw range, which means you don't even have to like check her with your 2k or whatever. You just guaranteed get a throw, which is great, right? And then suddenly you're, starting your win condition from this previously like really safe ender that she has.
Anji Mito.
Alright, so next up is going to be Anji, and this is going to be for IBing the low follow-up of his move Fujin. So because Fujin is -8, you're going to, want to punish it. But when you do that, he is going to frame trap you with Nagiha like this, and you're going to get counter hit, and you're going to explode because Anji does a lot of damage. And Nagiha is -7. But a lot of characters like 2Ks and stuff are either going to whiff, or they're 2k 2d whiffs, and stuff like that, right? So your punish might not be really ideal. But we can fix this by IVing Nagiha. Like that.
Ino.
So for Ino, it's going to be about her 2k 6h. So when she goes low on her mix-ups, if she doesn't do 2k 2d, right? Because 2k 6h is a much better combo, she is actually taking a little bit of a risk here. So you can actually, it's kind of like Millia's, where you can react to the 6h happening, and then IB the second hit. So this is what it normally looks like, right? And you get sent away like pretty far. But if you IB it, you're right in her face and you get a good punish, right? And obviously this isn't the end of her block string because she can still special cancel, but then you realize, special cancels are really bad because her S-stroke is also -7. Oh, by the way, 6H is -8. So S-stroke is -7. A-stroke is a huge gap, so your punish is still going to come out. Chemical Love whiffs on crouchers, so it's recommended that you punish this with a crouching move. And Note is going to take a really long time to start up. So I think it's pretty worthwhile to try and IB the second hit of 6H on reaction.
Goldlewis Dickinson.
So obviously the Goldlewis one is going to be when he has you in his favorite spot here in the corner, dying, right? And it's going to be him using his favorite move, 268. Because this type of stuff is going to be happening to you all the time. But when they do 268, this close slash is going to be outside of your throw range, so you can't actually even mash on it. So a really good thing to try to do is to IBFD this close slash timing, and that's going to look like this. And then suddenly it gets pushed out really far.
Jacko.
So next up is Jacko, and it's going to be kind of a 2-for-1, but it's going to be the same block string, which is 2k 2d into her kick special move into pulling out a minion. And normally that's going to look like this. And when you do that, you can't really catch her because she's running away really fast, right? So there's actually two different things we can do about this. If you IB her 2D, then the kick has a 2-frame gap from her 2D, so you can just smash throw like this, right? And then you just start your own offense. But if you miss that IB, you shouldn't give up. You should actually try to IB the kick after as well. Because if you do that, she can't run away from your mesh, right? And if she jumps, then, she's going to either jump your 2k or get air hit. So if your character has a 5k 2D that they can do, I would actually recommend doing that instead.
Chaos.
So now we have definitely my most hated character, Chaos. And this one is going to be for basically his like bread and butter block string, which is just close slash 6k, gunshot, and doing it over and over again, right? Until he does some like 5D or throw, right? So normally it looks like this. But if you IBFD the 6k, he can't actually like get in range to do close slash at the same timing, right? So he's forced to spend more resources to get the same block string, which is always a win, right? You basically want to make this character waste as much resources as you can. So that looks like this. See, he's getting far slash there instead of close slash, which is kind of a game changer. Anything to like make this character's offense even a little bit less stupid is definitely a win in my book.
Baiken.
So the one I'm going to show for Baiken is also, in my opinion, one of the most useful ones in the game. It's a little bit similar to Leo's, but the timing is actually going to trip you up a little bit because her 6K is 12 frames, which is exactly the timing that you need to not IB for on Leo 6K. But it's really worth learning both timings, because her 6K is -5 on block, and she has no gapless special cancels. Like, the fastest is Tatami, which is a 2-frame gap, so you can still mash throw. So that would look like this. And then I would say you get to start your offense, but Baiken might parry you, so just hope she doesn't parry you, I guess.
Testament.
So next one is going to be for Testament, and if you're anything like me, you really hate trying to get in on this character, right? And part of it is because just even their like basic block string has a ton of pushback. So like, look how far away I am, right? We went from point blank to I'm now like more than halfway across the screen from them. So this can be helped by trying to IB either hit of their S Fireball or both, right? So here's what that's going to look like. That's one hit. That's IBing the first hit. And then that's both. Look how close I am now, right? So this is generally going to help you try and get it on Testament, because their frame data is like, it's alright, but it's not anything to write home about. And their entire goal is to try and, you know, keep you out, right? Until they get you into the corner. So doing this is like basically zero risk, because it's all a true block string, so you can't even get hit for doing it. And I think it actually goes a really long way.
Bridget.
So against Bridget, it's kind of like Testament, where you just kind of want to get it on her all the time. But the way that's going to work out is a lot of her pokes in neutral when you're dash blocking at her, you're just going to accidentally IB, and it's kind of already going to accomplish the goal. So I decided to show, it's basically the same thing as Millia with her close slash, where if you IB it, you're in throw range, and if you IBFD it, her offense is kind of over. And you can just react to it because it's 2 hits, right? So I'm going to show both of those. There's me throwing her. And then there's how far she gets pushed on IBFD, which is pretty significant. So, sorry to Sin players, you didn't get buffed in the patch, or get any changes, not even nerfed. And I'm also going to have 2 different ways to use IB against him here, just because it's sort of in the same recording. So number 1 is his 5H. The 2-hitting thing is kind of a theme here, where you could react to the second hit of his 5H and then throw him if he's close enough, if he does like a pretty standard block string. So like this. He's forced to cancel into Beak Driver because he's in throw range. And then with Beak Driver, because this is like a standard block string, you're probably not, you know, FDing none of it and then IBing, you know, a 5H. If you're like FDing him out and stuff, IBing the Beak Driver once the block string is done gets you like closer to him, and because Beak Driver is so insanely minus, right, he is more likely to be forced to cancel it because you IB'd it, so your punish is going to be better. So let's show that real quick. That's like normal spacing. And then there's me getting a 2K2D, which is like, you know, pretty game ending, especially for Zato, right? So he's forced to use his follow-up, which costs stamina, which he might not even always have. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any other like character-specific uses of IB that I may have forgotten or left out, because I wanted to keep this video, I mean, it's probably pretty long, but, you know, generally kind of short, let me know in the comments, and also let me know if you want to see more uses of IB for like other characters or maybe even universal stuff, because there's definitely like so much more. Like the IB system in this game, it seems like it's pretty like whatever at first, but it really opens up like so many options, and it really it can change your gameplay a lot. So thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I end up making another one of these.